Welcome back, of course. Still going through the big stories of the day as you wake up. A very good morning to you. This is most definitely K24, and this is K24 This Morning. If you're just joining us, going through the papers with Ben Mulo, governance expert, Nerima Wako from Siasa Place, and Mr. Mark Bichachi, political analyst, here with me. Let's go to the Daily Nation now. And the front page of the Daily Nation is the matters treasury. And of course, we all know that money has been a critical issue. We've spoken about it in different dimensions as a country, from debt to corruption and everything in between. Daily Nation's front page, Treasury slept as tax defaulters got away. For 14 months, disputes over taxes have been piling up after the National Treasury delayed in appointing members to the appeals tribunal, creating a 283 billion shilling tax hole right there. And now looking for a way to plug that particular hole. Judiciary on the spot, too, for giving orders stopping KRA from demanding taxes. So here we are, a country and a government that needs revenue, and various arms of this particular government not playing its part in making sure we get a particular revenue. When we had the case going to court, when Tabitha Karanja, CEO of Keroshe, spoke about the fact that she doesn't understand where the DCI is coming for her, yet this particular case is at the tribunal. Now we see this tribunal is not working. So is it a loophole that most business people knew? Take it there and let's buy some time, Mark?
Well, let me tell you how corruption works in this country. When we started fighting corruption with Anglo-leasing, the powers that be learnt a very critical lesson, that corruption is easily hidden through the systems of government in this country. So what you do is you fail to pay tax, then you go to the tribunal like the betting companies try to do, and you say that, listen, I disagree with this tax, and then you have issues. Now, the reason why you delay in putting up a tribunal is because previous times, these tribunals have been in collusion with the tax evaders, which is why the people who DCI and DPP is claiming to have evaded tax in previous times have been given awards for being the best taxpayers. So basically, it's the same way we used to have KCP, that the person who would be held up and being cheered by the whole country was simply the best guy at cheating in the exam. And that's the problem that we have in this country. And we must understand that corruption is both sides. Corruption in this country is not just about expenditure, but it's also about receiving your taxes. And look at how many people were arrested by DCI when they just sent interns only, you know, people who are not quite experienced in that system. How many of them were exposed? And today, as we speak, the DCI is on record and the DPP is on record as to saying that they will be able to arrest another 80 or so individuals. On top of that, the new boss at KRA has also said that this year alone, he is sure by the mandate that has been given and the people is going to follow up for tax, he can raise another 250 billion. You see, so this issue needs to be taken seriously. So it's not just a matter of a missing tribunal. It's a matter of the entire system that has been used by people who've become professionals at cheating on their taxes, including having two pipes to feed their alcohol. So one pipe that goes through the KRA meter and one underground that goes through the meter of Jesus.
Nerima, let me bring in on this one as well, because as you can see, Mark has gone from KCP to religion. He says Jesus is being fed on this one. But I mean, we're looking at a situation where we're looking for a way to get 283 billion, and it seems like the very system that should be getting this money for the taxpayer to, you know, benefit from it is the same one that's preventing it from, you know, it being collected. Where do we move from here? Who solves the situation? DCI, as we always say, always turn to Kinoti and Haji. Please get our money for us.
Gosh, Jeff, that's a hard question. Only because, like Mark has said, the system that very exists has a lot of gaps and holes in it. But also, when we're talking about collecting revenue or taxes and all that, governments do need taxes. But also another issue is, as much as it pains, because even when we look at the economic structure of our country, most people right now are in informal work, which a lot of times is very difficult to tax. And even you have a middle class, which frankly is almost non-existent. Because right now, I think we say middle class earns about 20,000 shillings. And we're putting them in the same range.
Not as an individual.
Imagine. And we're putting them in the same range as someone who earns 100,000 shillings. And even if we look at that, those people are the ones who are being taxed the most, because they are able to be traced. And that's why we saw the whole thing with Huduma, where they were trying to trace people. And I'm still wondering why Census was asking whether you have a Huduma number. Anyway, so back to the question on the systems that exist. I think that we should be concerned about accountability, because even when we have judiciary or court systems that are corrupt and our judiciary is also underfunded, and individuals who sit in boards that, frankly, when we talk about appointments, even right now when we're talking about KRA, the people who sit in those boards or those systems should be in court cases right now.
Right.
And the reality of our country is, as long as it's not a political will and effort from all the different institutions that exist to work conclusively together, then we're always going to have gaps.
Right.
Yeah.
Bonamula, let me bring in on this as well, because as she said, and it's something that had been raised as well, as we had all of these high-profile arrests of different business leaders who had evaded taxes. And I asked you that question last week on the show. It takes two to tango in this particular game. You can't evade taxes in your office alone.
It is impossible.
It can't happen. We haven't seen any high-profile arrests coming from the revenue side, or any arrest for those particular cases.
Absolutely.
So how do you move forward with this particular issue in getting our taxes back?
One thing that I have been consistent in maintaining is that we have one economic hitman who ran a systematic destruction of this economy for 7 years in the name of Henry Rotich. Thank the heavens.
An economic hitman?
Yes, he was an economic hitman, yes, a terrorist. Believe you me, Rotich has destroyed this country more than all the bomb blasts and all the terrorist attacks that have ever occurred in this country. We have to agree. When you look at this, like the dysfunction of the tribunal that is supposed to be reviewing these cases, these were all deliberate and calculated moves. Just the same way, Rotich was always busy designing budgets that were intended to be stolen, not to serve the country. So it will take us a very long time, actually, to recover from the mess that this particular individual put us in. But now, when we talk about this issue of taxation, and it's a good thing, actually, that the DCI, because even the KRA within themselves, they have a very elaborate investigative arm. What have they been up to for the last 7 years for us to reach exactly where we are? They have a very comprehensive compliance department. What have they been up to for the last 7 years for us to be able to reach where we are? So in my view, we really need a comprehensive investigation into how these cartels are structured within the core of KRA, because this is something that has been going on for a very long time. And as I indicated, when we keep talking about these referendum proposals and all that, we also have to begin to interrogate. You know, there's been consistent impunity running from the top, to the extent that if the CSs are getting away with this, and if senior government officials are getting away with this, why should I bother as a small clerk at the border of Isebania or at the port, whereby somebody comes in and tells me, you see what, I have 2 Range Rovers in this container, but you declare them as Mutumba from wherever, then I'll give you 1 million shillings on the side, then you declare that. So it is something that really must be addressed. But the component of integrity must begin to be demonstrated from the top. It is going to be a circus, because as you've seen, actually, there are always new ways people are devising to continue stealing from the systems. You come up with these proposals now, like the DCI is busy with this. Already these guys know where the gaps are and where the loopholes are. They're already creating new systems where they can continue still beating what is expected of them to make the money. Because there's a particular also lifestyle issue whereby they are used to that kind of lifestyles. As I mentioned the other day, you find an average clerk working at KRA or even Kenya Power or these agencies earning 100,000 shillings. They are driving a Range Rover and they are building, they live in a 7-bedroom home in Upmarket, Nairobi. And these things are inconsistent. So even you remember that conversation the president started about lifestyle audit. It died a natural death.
Right.
Those are the indicators of why some of these things are designed to fail from the outset. At the end, it is Wanjiku, the taxpayer, who suffers the most.
Very true. And of course, that's a story that you can get in your copy of the Daily Nation right there. Also, of course, as is required, the views expressed on this show, by the way, don't necessarily reflect the views of K24 television. Because, you know, Rotich is watching. And if he's watching, of course, he needs to understand that as well. But let's continue and go to the Star. Front page of the Star. How Kenya Airways lost 2 billion shillings in baggage fraud. This is a story that was carried over the weekend as well. DCI Kanoti talking about the fact that he also wants to see how exactly Kenya Airways lost, I think, 100 billion shillings in less than 10 years, from 2003 to 2014. Lots of questions being asked as to how this has taken place. But also, a bigger question that we're asking, is it that the business environment we have right now as far as the skies is concerned in the region has an issue? Because we can see what's happening in Tanzania. Uganda just got to the skies after 20 years, you know, in the dark. Now they're back in the air. Is it a corporate governance issue, or is it that the region just doesn't know how to put its aviation business in ordinary? Take it from there.
I think it's also even private businesses, because unfortunately Ethiopia also is doing really well, and it's because it's now part of the state, their airline. And it's also when it comes to why is it that some things we have work, they're very successful. If we talk about large businesses in Kenya. And yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, it's really unfortunate that Nakumatt sunk, or even Uchumi. We can talk about things that we've seen rise and sink when we talk about the corporate world. And I think when it comes to airlines, we do have professionals. We have seen even pilots, and they're going on strike with their unions and things like that, and they're claiming for things that make sense. But when it comes to accountability, again, when it comes to when you live in a country where there are no systems of integrity, where when you go, there are people who are above the law, to be frank with you. And even when we talk about ownership, where we have individual people who own and there are actual monopolies. When we talk about even looking at the airport and who runs what sort of company, even if it's a coffee shop in an airport, when we talk about tendering and how they even got that tender, there are gaps in the systems. And so as long as we have people who are above the law in this country, and our politics sleeps with business, because you find that these individuals are politicians and they can rule the law whenever they want, then you're not going to be able to have an entity to exist and flourish, because the environment makes it completely difficult. Where if you're a person who comes in with integrity, where even to start my organization, I was being bribed for a certificate. I mean, it starts from the beginning of a certificate. And if you do not follow through, life becomes even more difficult for you. So you look crazy in Kenya when you're trying to follow the law.
Absolutely. Mark, let me bring you in on this as well, because some people are just asking, is the only way to deal with all of this, once we discover what happened here, as we move forward, because it is still in the red, as they announced the results last week, it's now down to 8 billion shillings in terms of losses. The year before that was 4 billion. Should we just privatize Kenya Airways and just cut our losses as a government and move forward?
Before we privatize Kenya Airways, let's look at what the problem is. The biggest problem in this country as a whole is that someone can afford to buy a Range Rover, but we learn to register it as a Pro Box in Kenya. That's problem number one. It shows you the kind of thinking we have. In other words, that you want to live a Range Rover lifestyle, but you've got a Pro Box brain. That's a problem. and when you apply that kind of thinking to the airline, let's ask ourselves a few questions. If you get into a KQ flight, how often is it full? Quite often. If you check its prices against international prices, its prices are quite high. So that should tell you that in the business, if you get into a matatu, and the matatu is always full, and then it charges more than the other matatus, then the owner tells you he's making a loss, you definitely know there's a leakage somewhere. And where is the leakage? The leakage is in the details of the leasing contracts that we have, is in the details of how we've acquired loans, it's in the details of how we are spending the fares that people are paying for it. The flight from New York to Nairobi, I'm told, is full every other day. So if it is full all the time, that should tell you that it is the cost of the fuel. Because I hear that we decided to hedge the cost of fuel at a very exorbitant rate, even though the indicators said that the prices would be lower. So who in their right minds would sit and say, so production of oil in the United States is going up, Russia is going up, but you know what? Let me bet my fuel will be 150 bob for the next 5 years. Instead of betting, it will be 90 shillings. As in, surely, these are things that were designed and orchestrated to to milk Kenya Airways dry, because Kenya Airways has an insurance policy called the Kenyan people, who will be told, Aki feel woye for this thing, and then we will bail them out again. And that is the problem, because the people who did this, all the way from the YK92 people, are not mentioned who,
please
but I won't, because the views of this program,
they're yours.
I agree.
They're yours, Mark.
So some people around YK92 have landed us here, because if you look at all these contracts, they go back then. Absolutely. And that's because these particular people, when they were in the helm, they asked themselves, you know that pipe I talked about that goes underground? Yes. So while KQ is flying over here, him is retired and things are coming through other yes.
Okay, Mulo, let me have you into this as well. What's the way forward for this carrier? Because bailed out severally, still not seeming to make any headway, still in the red. Are we waiting for another bailout because it's a pride of Africa?
Number one, Jeff, we have to agree, impunity is very bold in this country. I was shocked by the arrogance that Naikuni could afford to display to Kenyans. I mean, this is somebody who agrees to, or comes to pee on the table and tells you guys, you know what, it's nothing you can do about me. Naikuni specifically presided over the death of KQ. He can never run away from that responsibility. And because he dared Kinoti DCI, I want to also challenge Kinoti to wake up very early in the morning and go pick that fella. Then, I mean, we can't run like this. Yeah, you tell me I am ready. He wants to sit under a tree. Let him sit actually where people who have committed economic crimes sit. They don't exchange notes under a tree and drinking boozy soup. But now, the second thing is, which is very worrying and which we must be able to understand. Recently, Tanzania relaunched their national airline. That has been dead for quite a while. As we are speaking, actually, Uganda Airlines is now beginning flights to Nairobi after over 30 years since the airline was dead. What does that mean? That the pride of Africa, which is now the disappointment of Africa, lost at some point because we dominated this airline business. And today, actually, we have more people by percentage or by ratios flying than they have ever flown at any other time in history. So the market is huge. Look at even the local airlines that are flying to Homa Bay, even to Kisumu, or even to Mombasa. They're actually increasing their fleets. So that tells you that it is a profitable business and it is working. But it is an issue of mismanagement at KQ. And we must, as I indicated, the same thing I would challenge even in the investigation of the taxes. We had Commissioner Michael Waweru, who performed very well under Kibaki, that KRA was almost always meeting or exceeding their targets. And we never saw the drama that we are being treated to. So even as Kinoti looks for Naikuni, must also look for Njiraini. And Njiraini must be able to explain what systems did he put in place to begin to underperform, unlike his predecessor, and whereby tax evasion became the norm.
Well, okay.
Yes.
That is a big one right there. Because we are pressed for time, we only have 2 minutes. As always, I need to know your good, bad, or ugly for the week. Because you two have done it before. We shall have an Erima go last on this one.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. So, Bonaben, we can start with you. What good thing or bad thing happened over the weekend?
I had many things happening.
Pick one.
Yes. But particularly, I think this weekend was exciting because as we are setting off on the new month, it took time actually for me to reflect and actually review that we are essentially in the last quarter of this year. And I thought about some of the resolutions that I made at the beginning of this year. Now I have like 3 months to go. So it is a moment actually for me of deeply reflecting and looking at how best I can close the year better than I did last year.
Bonamark, in your 30 seconds?
My 30 seconds, so my bad is Ezekiel Mutua deciding to take the morning after pill 9 months after the baby was born. That's my bad. My ugly is the politicians playing around with the Mao. My good is the TICAD conference went really, really well. And if Kenya sticks to that route where we're not over borrowing and we're doing deals instead of borrowing, that's a good thing. And also let's deal more with the Japanese, because if Ngong Road is anything to go by, the part that was done by the Japanese very well, the Chinese, my friend, just wake up one day, close the road, and now there's a ditch where there used to be a road. No apologies, no signs. And traffic.
They've moved on.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bonamark and Erima. What's your good, bad, or ugly for the weekend coming into the week?
I think it's a mixture of good and bad. The good thing is kids are back in school. I wish them all the best. And then I guess the bad also is the fact that there's confusion with CBC and the fact that Standard 4, 5, 6 don't have their texts yet, and it's the end of the year. So it makes me wonder what they've been doing all year. And so that also rolls into ugly.
Okay, of course. Quite an issue, because when parents are asking which way forward, we don't know what to buy when you go to the store as well. Direction needs to be given right there as far as that new curriculum.